Hi. Welcome to the Grant House. This is hopefully a good take of the first episode. The learning curve on this has been amazing. Anyway, on this channel, I'm going to be reviewing a series of articles I wrote for the MUFON journal, Mutual UFO Network. I think all of the copyright stuff is handled very well, and just to make sure, what I'm going to do is just paraphrase my own commentary on the articles that I wrote. They've published 3 so far, and to start off with, we're going to start with the first one, which is this one, whose number no man can compute. And so here's how this happened. I was researching a body of religious work, and I came across this quotation. Know thou that every fixed star hath its own planets, and every planet its own creatures, whose number no man can compute. That's a pretty straightforward statement. And you may not have heard anything like that anywhere else. Anyway, I was researching these writings because I had read an article in the MUFON journal in 2019 by Arman Birnbaum entitled Hypothesizing Interstellar Law. And that's what got me started on all of this. And he had said in that article, the behavior of alien spacecraft spotted in our seas and skies is anything but random. Some interstellar law likely plays out far from our world among distant and for us unreachable places. Anything but random. Okay. I'm a fan of Ancient Aliens, and I like what the angle that they're taking, that there are implications in the ancient religious writings of various religions. And so I just picked up on that thread and started looking. And I found in the same group of writings another quotation. Truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. There's the word human. Without truthfulness, progress and success in all the worlds of God are impossible for any soul. When this holy attribute is established in man, not human, but in man, all divine qualities will also be acquired. Now, I thought this was significant because if you're going to have a civilization that travels between star systems, that's a successful civilization, at least in technological terms. So according to that passage, it's required, truthfulness required for progress and success in all the worlds of God, plural. That civilization probably understands truthfulness. Now I was looking for a code of laws, an interstellar code of laws. Maybe I'm one of the few people that's researched that, I don't know. And so I got to thinking about that, and religious notions like, in general ones basically, the 10 Commandments and the Golden Rule come to mind. And we rely on those things to inform our systems of belief and our legal codes. But it made me wonder what alien technology geeks who fly around using anti-gravity to power their ships, what would they have in common if anything, with some little known earthly religion. And I found this. Religion must be in conformity with science and reason. If belief and teaching are opposed to the analysis of reason and principles of science, they are not worthy of acceptance. And then there was another quote in these same writings in another place. Put all your beliefs into harmony with science. There can be no opposition, for truth is one. So truth is the foundation of virtue. Science and religion, in the estimation of these writings, agree because truth is one. So whatever the engineers and scientists among the ufology world can find and have to say about any of this should not be in conflict with anything I'm finding in these writings. Now, I'm working through this first episode here with you, and I'm researching religious writings. And you may not be religious at all. Some of my friends are atheists, some are agnostic, and then others may be devout in whatever religion they follow, and some are just non-committal. That's okay. I'm not trying to get anyone to believe anything. My purpose here is to make the ufology community in general aware that these writings exist. That's all. I don't care if you believe them or not. I don't care if you believe anything or not. But if you are looking for an independent, disinterested third party to back up what you believe, here is a world religion with several million followers, and the writings are authenticated translations of primary sources which they have published in more than 60 countries and hundreds of languages. And the primary purpose of that religion is not to promote disclosure or the reality of UFOs whatsoever. It just covers such a broad waterfront in the things that its writings talk about that we find things in there that make statements, definite, positive statements about things that we've been trying to find answers to for a very long time. So it's going to mention God and that sort of thing. Don't let that bother you any more than it would on Ancient Aliens. There's no secret agenda here. The open agenda is just to make sure that people know these writings exist, because I don't think the ufology world is aware of them. Okay, moving on. Let's go with the references to God as the Lord of all worlds, plural. That's the point. Not the Lord of one world or this world, but the Lord of all worlds. And it says that in places too numerous to list them all. It just keeps coming up, as you might expect. And it also says, so potent and universal is this revelation, that it hath encompassed all things, visible and invisible. Now, two things with that little sentence. So potent and universal, so widespread, that it has encompassed all things visible and invisible. Pardon me. There's no limit placed on that. So my thinking is that E.T. got this memo. Whenever this religion arrived on the scene, everybody got the memo. Does that mean that E.T. follows these writings? Absolutely not. Look at Earth. Earth has got the memo many times, and everybody doesn't change from one religion to another when a new one appears. Everybody doesn't follow verbatim everything that all the religions say. So I don't suppose that E.T. does either. But they know about it. We'll discuss that later too. And it also occurred to me that all things visible and invisible, things that are invisible would include, pardon me, other dimensions. Creatures that are not quite in this dimension yet, perhaps. Vehicles or individuals with cloaking devices switched to on. So I did some more digging and I found another quote that you may not have heard before. All creatures that exist are dependent upon the divine bounty. As the light of the sun shines on the whole world, and the mercy of the infinite God is shed on all creatures, no limitations. So the application of these writings is all worlds and all creatures. Now, with Hubble, only lately science has been able to prove that there are multiple worlds, planets in the Goldilocks zone, and that sort of thing. It wasn't that long ago that we did not even know that for sure. So what about a code of laws drifting among all of these newly found worlds? Here's another quote. Inasmuch as we find all phenomena subject to an exact order and under control of universal law, the question is whether this is due to nature or due to divine and omnipotent rule. I could have ended the article right there. That's the statement that answers the question. Inasmuch as we find all phenomena, and there are multiple phenomena in the UFO world, ETs, UAPs, Sabe, various other cryptids, and those great big rocks that weigh hundreds of tons that are at the bottom of all of the ancient structures, those guys. There's a lot of phenomena that we need answers to. Subject to an exact order and under control of universal law. That's another quote here. The next one. The law of God is one. That's a huge statement. That's got religious implications that we're not going to cover here. The evolution of existence is one. Every scientist out there should have sat up when I said that. The evolution of existence is one. The divine order is one. So we've got a divine order that includes evolution. That's cool. All beings, great and small, are subject to one law and one order. I mean, Mr. Birnbaum's article is just being hammered with answers from these writings. And yeah, it says evolution. And that's not surprising, even though these are religious writings. They just said science and religion must be in agreement. Now I'm going to tackle what mankind is, who we are and what we are, in a later article. All that research is done. And that comes back around. all beings great and small are subject to one law and one order. Then there's another quotation. Reflect upon the inner realities of the universe, the secret wisdoms involved, the enigmas, the interrelationships, the rules that govern all. For every part of the universe is connected with every other part by ties that are very powerful and admit of no imbalance nor any slackening whatever. That's reassuring to me. Maybe not to you, but to me that's reassuring. Because as the world gets crazy here, it's nice to know that the universe is connected to everything here and everyone that is here. Another quotation. On the contrary, that essence of sanctity is the sum of all divine and lordly perfections, and all creatures receive illumination from his emanational appearance, and partake of the lights of his celestial perfection and beauty, in the same way that all earthly creatures acquire the grace of light from the rays of the sun. And that's why this quote is here. Because it makes a distinction between all creatures receive illumination in the same way that earthly creatures acquire grace from the light of the sun. So it's talking about creatures that are not necessarily earthly creatures, is it not? It goes on to say, without any descent or abasement of the latter into the recipient realities of these earthly beings, meaning the rays of the sun hit the earth and warm us up and light the place, but the sun doesn't actually come down here itself. That's a spiritual metaphor for the Holy Spirit, I suppose. So we've answered Arman Birnbaum's questions with these quotations, I think pretty much unequivocally. And it uses the word emanational. And I noted in the article here that a hologram emanates from a source. And there are a bunch of people out there that think the universe might be a hologram. And it might be. That could be a hint. Who knows? I think they're maybe using it primarily because the light of the sun emanates from the sun, comes down here and does its business without the sun actually showing up, because if it did, it would burn everything to a crisp. So it may not mean it in the sense of a hologram, but that doesn't say that it doesn't. The texts go on to say, quote, my meaning instead is that this endless universe is like the human body, and that all its parts are connected one with another and are linked together in the utmost perfection. That is, in the same way that the parts, members, and organs of the human body are interconnected, and that they mutually assist, reinforce, and influence each other, so too are the parts and members of this endless universe connected with and spiritually and materially influenced by one another. That's something. Everything is connected. Everything in the universe is connected. And spiritually and materially influenced by one another. So what spiritually and materially happens out there influences us, and what we do here influences them. And I think that in the article I mentioned that I thought that added credence to the people who are gathering together, often with Dr. Greer, to meditate, to raise their vibrational level or whatever it's doing, because they feel like that helps ET find them and appear so that they can try to communicate with each other. That makes more sense if we're all connected. Okay, the quotation actually goes on. And if such relationships, such spiritual influences and effects are found among the various members of the body of man, which is only one particular being among many, then there must assuredly exist both spiritual and material relationships among, and get this, the countless universal beings. And although our present methods and sciences cannot detect these relationships among the universal beings, their existence is nonetheless clear and indisputable. Now, I'm not sure what they mean by countless universal beings, but we know there's a lot of them. And it's just that our science, the level of science that we have, cannot detect them. Well, that would explain part of the UFO phenomena being an enigma. And that's basically the article. I conclude that because of the quotations that I've just read to you, that there is an interstellar code of law, and that would explain why Sabe allows us to leave the middle of nowhere in the middle of night without just taking us out when they easily could, and why UAPs don't shoot down military jets when they easily could. That might explain that. So, if you liked those quotations and where they're headed, look me up on the next episode, because there'll be more like that, talking about the next set of facts that I think they apply to. And so here are the footnotes, and right above is where you can go online to find the library that I'm researching. The library link is right there, and the footnotes for this paper, the end notes actually, are listed below. And I want to show you those because the focus of this channel is not going to be my opinion. My opinion isn't worth anything. I'm an old guy. The older I get, the more I realize how little I know. And so the purpose, as I said, is to make ufology in general aware that there's a body of religious works that seems to have your back. And we'll go on showing you how they have your back, and then in the next episode. So I hope you liked it. Thanks for being here. I had a lot of fun making it. I'll see you next time. I'm Grant House. Bye.